Okay, welcome to our weekly learning from Likutei Moharan from the Holy Rebbe Nachman ben Faiga ben Simcha. We're holding in Torah 37, and we're going to hopefully today get through the the sixth part of the Torah 37, and hopefully even end up into the 7th, maybe even to the 8th. We'll do our best. We just have the short slot Mincha Marav Shmuel Amma Elu Malamdei Tanukas. So we were talking about the different opinions of this pasuk, who is being devoured or eaten. So Shmuel says Malamdei Tanukas. He says that these are the scorches of those who spoil the breath. So they're the ones who are destroying those who are pure of breath. The Tanukas shall base Rabban, the pure children. So that was the machlokas, or was it the aspect of the ritual slaughter, the shochet, the bu hevlish or shochet? When the ritual slaughter's words, ein bechinas hevlish ein bochet bechinas avir deretz so zeh ochle ami panasim nismayit. This is where we ended off last week. That they eat up the pure air, those are free of sin. The shochetim we don't check correctly. And this is the aspect of the holy air of Eretz Yisrael, and through that they're devouring the people, Ochle Hami, and that causes Panasad and Smite. So one of the things that definitely been discussing a lot is opening up the Shefa. So Baruch Hashem, we had a moment where, Baruch Hashem, my son, he came with us Erev Shabbos to meet with someone who's doing a special tribute to help the soldiers and the people who have invaded on the October the 7th, to heal through music, rock and heal. So we went to Mamela, and Baruch Hashem, he came with us, and then later that day went to a Mayan to purify himself, and on the way back with my other son, they brought us some flowers, and it looked like the flowers weren't going to open. And my wife put them nicely in the vase, Erev Shabbos, but there was a lot of other things there, like as part of the flowers. And then once after Shabbos, she saw it felt like it was just too messy, so she cleaned it up. The flowers made it more neater and put it by the sun. And then this morning she came and it was all open. And this is a concept of opening up the Shefa, the Sinor, making space. That not only through purification and not only through being involved with worthy projects like we're trying to do here, but also as we're learning through the children themselves, through the pure air, through the shchoktim, the way we eat, the kashrus, the purification, the aliyah. The main likud of this Torah is aliyas neshamos, elevating souls, and that's through the correct shchita, that's through the correct kovod given to the neshama, the correct honoring of the soul. We're going to see as we go ahead, it's going to be clarified more and more, because we've been going on this Nakuda for a while. For when the ritual slaughter has breath that is free of sin, the aspect of God's sword, this is the charity of land of Eretz Yisrael, Torah canal, and this connects into the aspect of Torah. So we already learned in this Torah that there's the Cherev Lashem, the sword of Hashem. That's an aspect of Tzedakah Eretz Yisrael, of giving charity in Eretz Yisrael. Right now there was a big vote in the world about the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. So hopefully everyone chose wisely, so we can protect the Kedushas Eretz Yisrael. B'chinas Nefesh, and the aspect of the soul, B'chinas Torah canal. Gam HaNefesh Olam Chai LeMedaber Shalom. And this is the aspect of ascending, elevating the level of animal to the level of Medaber, those that speak. And we've already mentioned this before, this concept. So a person has the ability to elevate souls of Mayim Nukvim. This is to do with his deeds. So in this example was the shochet, does shchita in the correct way. This elevates the souls that are in the kosher slaughter through the spoken words when they're making the bracha on the shechita, it causes a sen and malchus and just flow of bounty into the world. So like ritual slaughter by an unworthy slaughter denies the rectification to those souls reincarnated in the animal life form, and so diminishes the livelihood. So this is about opening up the sinor, the pipeline for the Shefa. So today is Gevurah B'Netzach. This Indian of being Mizgaber in an eternal way, like the Tzaddik, and the focus and elevating in an eternal way. And that opens up to then Teferah B'Netzach, which is going to be tonight, the idea of the balance, the equilibrium that brings. So constantly see again and again the Sphira has Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence in everyday life, and it's connected into opening up these pipelines, these sinos, because always blockages are created through not correct kavanas and brachas, or in Avodah Hashem, or the way we eat. And we see the controversial concept of the teachers of school children not being proper. And we're learning from Shlomo Katz this week from Rav Usha, from Usha Freund, and my own children were Talmidim in one of the Chadarim that came out from his legacy. And I was explaining to Shlomo, I'm not going to get into all the pratim of the details, but it was a very difficult tekufa for my family. And what he said is it wasn't really the derech of Rav Usha that was carrying on in that place. And what he said is that over here we're going to bring the Torah of Rav Usha to a place where there's more kalim, there's more vessels to absorb that light, the teachings of the Tzaddik, so that we can get it correct in the right way. Not like what was going on in this Madams in Tanokas who were in a certain bechina shechting the children, my own children, Hashem Shemaim. I'm healing in that way. We have to do it in the right way. Zeh perish azov b'nei amaretz. Says Vaita in Torah 37 and 7 Sif. Zeh perish azov b'nei amaretz. Kizeh yidua. And this explanation of being mindful of the sons of the ignorant. So we already had before in the Likutei Moharan, it brought from Chazal the famous statement of you have to honor Yehuda of Netzibin warned you have to honor, be careful with the Amaretz. And he also brought two other statements, but we're here now focusing on the Amaretz, supposedly those who are ignorant, as Rebbe Stefansky calls Amaretz. How does he say Amaretz? He says it's Amratz or something. He has some funny way of saying it. And he always puts a picture of that Simpsons child from the cartoon picking his nose. You see someone who's like stupid, but obviously for our generation, I suppose it would be someone who hasn't really learned Torah, because they do it in the fashas, the kabdas, the akshakos, tikna. For it's knowing that the noble souls which are oppressed within the scale. So this tikla is the state of scale. So we have to understand, what does it mean? These noble souls which are within the scale. Yeah, he adds in oppressed, like ashakos is oppressed. The scale, this concept of tikla, it's a very Kabbalistic concept from what I'm understanding. It's based on the Zohar, that there is a kind of klipa which is connected to the concept of glow. Interestingly, when we were learning with Shmuel Diamond, he said klipa is gematria bechira. That's one of the things that klipa does. It gives people the ability to have bechira, because it's a covering up on some level. Klipa's noga is like this translucent klipa, and somehow they find themselves ensnared and pressed within the tikla on the other side. So it's a very deep concept. Alpi Kabbalah, souls being captured on some level. I'm saying, like, what happened to that cheder? So they got taken over by the wrong neshamas who weren't connected to the teachings of the tzaddik. So it happens in a pnimis level, on this aspect of the souls that are brought down, are caught in this klipa. No klipa's noga. Klipa's noga Shitakai Shama Nefesh are in the evil force of noga. As I hear Nesenes Osam B'Tok Tipas Zavigo Shal Amaretz. The evil force of noga wants the souls to become ensnared there. Kadesh she is Tanef Hanefesh Hi B'Yosem. If it plants in the drop of semen more, Nimsa shebnei amaretz heim nefashos yikaros. So that the soul should become extremely foul. Eila shehem siparim achuzos b'pach. They're like birds caught in a trap. These sons of ignorant are very precious souls, but they're like birds caught in a trap. So we know that from learning Tanya, especially the second parak, we did learn that together here. The second parak of Tanya talks about how sometimes the Amorites or the the lowest level souls can bring down the highest level neshamas in the time of relations, because Pnimis level, everyone goes back to the Chochma Vabra, goes back to the Moch Shel Av, the brain of the original Machshava, to bring down the original Odom. So everyone has that Shorish on the Pnimis level all the way up, and Spheris and Pnimius will have a Shaykhus to the highest level. That's our Shorish, our root, on the deepest level. And it can come down from such a low-level relations between Amaratzim or low-level souls can bring down the most precious souls. And the way it's described, they're like birds caught in a trap. So Yehuda and Nitzivin warned you have to honor them. By honoring these souls, by focusing on the neshama, that you bring out the neshama level. This is something which Umar Rebbeim told me when I was busy on the streets for many years, about 5 years, as a midnight rabbi, all night helping the shamas and throughout the week and Shabbos for many years, and now it's more online. So when I was doing that, and still doing that, they told me you have to focus on the neshama. You have to honor the neshama within these people. Exactly Rebbe Nachman is bringing down in a very deep way from Yehuda on Nitzivin. We see these souls are like caught up. And we see such examples of how very high souls can be caught up amongst Amaratzis or low-level relations, or even worse, relations of Aveira. We see by this Neshama Mashiach, Zakenu, he came through illicit relations. As we know from the Chumash, from Yehuda and Tamar, even though that wasn't illicit, but it came across that he had to disguise it in a seemingly illicit relation, that Tamar was a zona, a prostitute, and Yehuda, who was like the Rosh of the Beis Din, or the Rosh of the Shvutim in that time, was with the lowest level person, but it ended up bringing down the soul neshama of Mashiach through that chibur. Had to be disguised in that low-level experience, even though Sadka Menu and Yehuda was molded, she was a Sedekus and everything else herself, and she was willing to give up her life not to embarrass Yehuda v'chudu. So we see that Tamar was a holy soul, and that was why his sons were not able to have that schus, because they went on that level that Yehuda was and Tamar was. But then there's another story with Lot and his daughters, and we know from Moab, which is a much more profane way of saying from the father, that she was slept with her father, the daughter, more than the Amnon, which has been more hidden. Moab was a very blatant way of saying that her child came from her father. She had relations with her father, and from that came out Rus, and from Rus he was going joining up with the Zivig of Boaz. Came down David HaMelech, and David HaMelech, as we read on Shavuos, which is coming up in a few weeks, once again Ashkocha Batzis, we read this whole Yichus and Sefer Rus, this whole lineage, and we see from that comes out David HaMelech, and from that Melech Mashiach. So it had to be disguised in something which is very low, in a low form of relation. So we're seeing, through honoring the neshama, we can bring down and release these souls from this trap. Mine Aliyadim Hada Tifaratam. How do we learn of their splendorous beauties? We just said Tiferes Benetzach. That's what we're holding. Ayidei Torasam, only from their Torah knowledge. Kisha'anu Roim Shem Tamei Chachomim. When we see that they're Tamei Chachomim, and we see this all the time with Balei Tshuva and people who do Tshuva, people who come to learn Torah later on in life, you do a Sheish Lahem Nefesh Shikara, that it becomes also they have precious souls. Whatever Torah they reveal is all revelation, or Gilui the Shochet. Whatever Torah they reveal is all a revelation for the ritual slaughter. Ki hanefesh hi bechinas Torah. Kana Torah Shem megalim b'nei Amaretz. The soul is an aspect of Torah. That's the Torah. Sure.
Can I join you?
Yeah, sure. So just to summarize, this is very deep and we're right at the end of a long Torah. But it's important to summarize anyway. This is something you know anyway. But my Rebbe told me very important. If I want to help souls in the end of days, the souls we have to deal with that seemingly come from low levels. They don't present themselves as Tam Chachamim or mentioned. They seem to come across as people who are caught up in an unshai tomb of our generation, a lot of impurity. And when I worked in at-risk yeshivas, they came over that way very much on drugs, very chutzpahdik to the Rebbeim. One of the first times I walked into a yeshiva, he called me, excuse the language, but he called me a douchebag. He asked me what's my name. I said, that's holy name. And I said, that's not your name, your name's douchebag. That's how he greeted me as one of the Rebbeim. And I had many experiences. I had all kinds of names, but we worked with these souls and we saw them, we polished them, we helped them. So what was the Rebbeim? What did the Rebbeim tell us how to? And I still have connection with many of these people, and a lot of them got married and had children, and we helped them for years and years. I did this, and many programs, and hosted them Shabbos after Shabbos. So with Mesiras Nefesh, it wasn't easy. But what did we get out from those souls? The Nakuda, the Rebbeim told us, is to focus on the honor of these souls. So Rebbe Nachman was saying that they fell into through relations not being done in the highest way, they fell into these low levels, these low level klippas, and klippas noga, it says in Rebbe Nachman, and they were clothed in not the best levushim of the soul, not the best clothing, but within the precious souls. And the Lashon, he says, they're like birds caught in a trap. Supurim achuzos b'pach. They're caught in a trap. So how do you release it? So what Rebbe Nachman he was getting to here is through being mechabed, the soul, the level of neshama, focusing in, and that's what my Rebbe told me. It's Rebbe Nachman saying here, focusing in on the neshama level. By looking at them as neshamas rather than gufs, rather than what you're externally seeing, you draw out the truth that they're these precious souls, and not these crude clothing that they're speaking in and acting in. Because inside there's a holy neshama, and that's what he says. You see inside of them the Torah, because that brings out the honor of the soul. You do a sheish them nefesh shakar, they have a pure, precious soul. Kol Torah shem megalin, and all the Torah in them starts to become revealed. You start learning with them, and you reveal in them this beautiful Torah that they have their own Torah. And one of the things I experienced, I grew in Torah by learning with such people, because it's called or chozer. You have this. I mean, I can talk about it elsewhere. There's like an awe that bounces off them if they're listening, not listening on their phone. They're not even interested, but just by trying and giving over, it brings back an even higher light level of Torah to yourself. So you grow anyway. You're going to grow by helping them in Mela, if that's your intention. Who are called Gilia Shochet, Ki Nefesh Bechinas Torah. So there's this whole concept when a shechita is done correctly, it elevates souls. So too, when you focus on the covet of these neshamas, it elevates the souls. Deep concept. Very deep. Should be Zoche. The Torah Shem Megalan, it's been Amaris, Haim, Bechinas, and Sosus, that you reveal that these are all aspects of sparks. Ola la Shechina, Bechinas Mai Nukvim, Bechinas Hazi, B'mai B'rai Katani. See what a child I've come with. That's how it ends off. What a child. You bring out the truth that these are holy sparks and holy souls. And that's what the Torah reveals. 600,000 neshamas. Yeshayim Ribi Asayis to the Torah, 600,000 souls in the Torah. Should be zoch to see it revealed, the sphere and truth.